The US empire is falling. You can see these statistics one by one. China surpassing the US. And today we have seen China becoming the #1 economy. It is undoubtable that America is dead. That's right, the American empire is falling. Let's get into this information right away out of the Business Insider. China just overtook the US as the world's largest economy. This was according to the IMF, who stated this. If you read into the way they calculate it, it may not necessarily be accurate, but the fact remains is that things are changing. You can see this graph right here showing you what's happening. We know specifically, whether they're using the right calculations or not, it is definitely heading in this direction. China is moving up, the US is moving down. I'd like to talk about a few things today that are going on that will show you why this is the case. Let's get out there, let's connect the dots, and then we can plan accordingly. This isn't the mainstream media, this isn't even a lot of the alternative news where they just read you articles. Let's get in there, let's get as far into this information as we can and connect the dots and do it as quick as you can. This is out of USA Today, saying the decision on a new SDR structure to be made in the next 15 months will influence how China and its currency can play a bigger part in driving world trade, investment, and capital flows. SDRs, for those who don't know, is the IMF's own currency. It's a digital currency. It's being used right now today, and this is potentially something that could be used in the future as a reserve currency. A lot of people have been talking about this, and I've thought about this myself and have spoken about it, considering the possibility that the SDR could be backing all of the currencies worldwide at some point. We'll have to see how that goes. And to continue on, they said the renminbi could eventually challenge the dollar and its pivotal position in the world economy. Absolutely, a lot is changing there. You can see how China, and especially Russia as well, being in the news a lot lately, talking about going away from the dollar, going onto a new reserve currency. They want this to happen, but they also own a lot of US currency, so they can't have that happen overnight. They have to wait for their own economies to strengthen, to build up the relations between themselves and other countries so they can use their own currency more than the US dollar, something that happens over time. This is out of CNBC. The IMF has downgraded its global growth forecast for both this year and next. This is brand new information coming out. The IMF is often very hesitant to give out the bad news, just like any other mainstream media outlet. But here they are once again downgrading this. Now they've done this actually a couple times before, and I would like to go back in time. But before I do, just want to read that bottom part here. The OECD slashed its expectations for a global economy because the concerns about the shuttering recovery in the US and the continued fragility of the Eurozone. Now, I have the question to ask. Look at the US stock market. Look at the US unemployment rates. They are both doing well right now. So if the OECD isn't concerned about those, what is really going on? So obviously we know that the real economy isn't going anywhere, and those statistics are fraudulent, something that I talk about often. Now the IMF, this is right from their website. You know how I like to get in there and get the real details right from the source whenever possible. They said this. This is back in 2011. The world economic recovery continues more or less as predicted. Indeed, our growth forecasts are nearly unchanged and can be summarized with three numbers. We expect the world economy to grow at about 4.5% in 2011 and 2012. Advanced economies are going to grow at 2.5%, and the developing are going to grow at 6.5%. But of course, they continuously have to go back and revise those downward. This happens over and over again. They're always overshooting the expectations. And this is something that just happens over and over again. You see the GDP expectations, not just for the IMF, but for all the different countries when they say, you know what, we're going to grow at this rate. And it just sort of just using that to boost the economy. They're always going higher than what they expect. And this is something that they do to play around with the numbers to make everyone feel like they can consume and consume and consume because everything is just fine. if I go into what I wrote about in my book, I said this: the US dollar will, and I'm quoting it here, the US dollar will lose its status as the global reserve currency over the next 25 years, according to a survey of central bank reserve managers. More than half of the managers predicted that the dollar would be replaced by a portfolio of currencies. Now that's what I was talking about with the SDR. It certainly could go in that direction, where you have an SDR or simply a basket of currencies being used as the next reserve, and possibly including the US dollar. It's not like it's going to be something that happens overnight, but you can see where someone like China is going to have more of a political influence, and the US influence begins to wane. So let's go on. This is the reality. This is what I like to bring to you. The statistics out of Bloomberg. No Disney fund for Orlando workers as poverty nears 20% in Orlando. This is unbelievable. When you see something like this, a 20% poverty rate, that is something that should be raising alarm bells. It should be signaling to everyone. This should be front page news, but of course it will not. But here at the Money GPS, it is something that we need to talk about. Undoubtedly, 20% unemployment is shocking to me. I'll move on quickly. This is the energy boom ends a political identity crisis. What they're talking about in this article, which you can go into yourself, it's out of the New York Times, talking about what they said, economic anxiety. And they're specifically talking about Alaska, but this is not just there. As I just mentioned, it's in Orlando. It's in many parts of the U.S. In fact, in most parts of the U.S., and of course extends all around the world. This is a huge problem that's taking place. And of course, this is out of CNBC. Ebola and Hong Kong weigh as risks to business rise. The reason I'm mentioning this is specifically that civil unrest will take place as the economy gets worse. That's what we need to fear, because individuals are not able to pay for their bills. If the U.S. government can't step in and give them the food stamps, give them their sort of welfare and all the disability and all these other statistics that are continuing to rise, there's going to be civil unrest. There's going to be these mass riots that take place, and you will see this happen, that invariably the militarized police will end up on the streets. If you want more information about that, you should watch the trailer on my main channel page. You can see right away what I talked about in my documentary there. And there will be riots and chaos, I assure you. If you found this video informative, I ask you to please give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to become an insider. The Insiders is now at nearly 1,000 people, and that is something that's something to be celebrated. I'll mention it when I cross that line there. Thank you to all the new joiners on there. Thank you to all the new subscribers at the Money GPS YouTube channel. And I want to say that if you're not already an insider, it is very easy to do so. It's free. That is at themoneygps.com. Just scroll down to the bottom, fill in your email address, and you'll get occasional emails from me with good, short, concise info.